Hope you're ready for more Yanagloshi Skinwalker tales, because here's another one that creeps me the hell out. Oh! Welcome back to another episode of Shanclen Shadow Productions. Now, I've got a very special story here for you. Now, this isn't an account from me. This is an account from a relative. I won't say exactly who, but after I saw them recently and they told me this story after finding out about my channel, they wanted to share their story too as well. So this tale is going to begin like how every other sheep herder's day begins on the reservation. Early before the sun comes up, this relative was awoken with the smell of spam potatoes and fresh tortillas being made by his mother. So he awakes, gets up, gets all his kit ready, and from what I was told, what he carried in his kit and in his backpack was he carried a knife on his belt with a holster with a revolver on there as well, and a flashlight and a radio and a canteen for water. So once his mother made those burritos for him, wrapped him up, put him in his backpack, walked straight to the door and grabbed his walking stick and said, "Hagon Eshima." And he walks out and he starts making his way over to the sheep corral. Now, normally whenever you're a sheep herder and you let out the animals like this to go and graze, it depends on how far away your water source is. For this location, it was around 2 to 3 miles away to the nearest water well. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon by the time he got to the sheep corral and let out all the animals. So he was home from boarding school that summer, and he was helping out doing his normal chores, daily duties, and he was in charge of the sheep, so he was a family sheep herder. It takes some time. The sheep kind of walk and graze, and normally the sheepdogs and the sheep kind of already know where to go. So as a sheep herder, you kind of just make sure that they keep it moving along. If there's any stragglers that kind of go behind or start wandering, you make sure that they go and stay in a pack. That's pretty much your job, is to be able to lead them to water, lead them back, and make sure no animals get to them. So by the time that they made it to the well, he started pumping some of the water for the sheep and the dogs and even himself too. That water was really, really clean and really, really good. And this location is deep in the mountains in Navajo Nation itself. So like I said, it was this hot summer's day. You know, he's walking in the sun all day, finally makes it to the water, and that water is nice, crisp and cool and clean. Ugh, I miss it so much. So he was able to find a really nice juniper tree to sit underneath, so kind of get some really nice shade. Sand was really soft right there. Kind of let the sheep drink the water, let the dogs drink the water, let them rest a little bit too, let them graze around in a little bit in the area too. So when he's sitting right there, he pulls out one of those burritos, starts consuming it and eating it, and then he turns on his radio, starts listening to some of the music that he had that was playing on the radio. Drinks some of his cold canteen water, probably had a Pepsi with them too, maybe had a soda pop, and started drinking that. He told me in the story that one of the sheepdogs, his favorite sheepdog, came over and sat next to him, so he's petting him. After he got done eating the burrito, drinking some water, listening to some tunes, he ended up falling asleep. He gets up and he wakes and gets up quick and looks around and notices, oh shit, like I slept and the sun has already set. And you can only see like a little bit of the blue hue in the sky where the sun actually was. And he looks around where that dog was, and that dog's gone. And his radio stopped playing too. And he tried turning it on, turning it off, and it was completely dead. The battery had died. So he racks that up, puts it back in his backpack, puts his canteen in his backpack too, and he pulls out his revolver. He's like, a bunch of things are going through his head right now at this time. He's like, where are the sheep? What time is it? Like, what was that scream? He grabs his revolver and he pulls out his flashlight and he starts looking around at the tracks. And he notices, thankfully, that the sheep and the sheepdogs started making their way back home. At what time, he's not 100% too sure. Hopefully, they started making their way back to where they're already at the house. So that kind of gets rid of the fear of like the sheep kind of going missing completely. So he gets his flashlight and he starts making his way back, but as he's walking back, he's thinking, what was that screech? What was that cry that he heard over into the forest, not too far away from him? And so the only thing that he could really think of is it's either a mountain lion or it's Yanagloshi itself. So he starts making his way back, and he starts thinking, he's worried, like his mom always told him, don't be out too late, don't be too far away from the home at night, otherwise these dark spirits or these dark entities will start making their way over to you and start messing with you and picking on you. So in this story, he was walking back, and he had to have made it about half a mile down the road, and along this path right here, there's this huge ditch that goes really pretty far down, and then you have to kind of go back up to get on the other side. And when he was making it his way toward the ditch before it started going down, he started hearing footsteps behind him. Now he turned and looked real quick, and he had his flashlight on whatever it was, and it was a dark figure in a dark shape just kind of walking behind him on the road behind him. So out there, like how I said, there was nobody that lived out toward that road, and there was no really any neighbors that would be walking around at that time of day. So he turns around, points the flashlight, and then he asks the Navajo, "Who are you? Announce yourself. Where do you come from? Who are you?" And that figure stopped walking, and it looked at him and didn't say anything. And he started freaking out. And so he's just like, "I have a gun with me, so don't try anything. Go back home. Go wherever you are if you're not going to say who you are." And so the thing just stood there and looked at him. So he started walking backwards toward the ditch. And he kept going and going. And then, sure enough, he started praying, and he started singing some protection songs in his head as he was walking. And then not too far, in between the little breaks in his songs, he heard those footsteps coming up behind him again. And he was kind of getting a little bit scared. And so he knew and recognized that this wasn't a normal person. This wasn't a normal being. This was something of darkness. This was something of fear. And he remembered smelling something really, really bad as it started catching up to his pace. It started catching up to him. And he started hearing those footsteps getting closer and closer. And then one of the teachings he was taught when he was younger is if any of these things ever come up to you like this, don't acknowledge them. Keep going. Don't show fear. Just keep going. And so he was praying, and he was singing songs as he was walking. Like I said, it was around 2 or 3 miles away. That thing got picked up about half a mile into the walk. So he kept going and going. And it wasn't until maybe about the 2-mile mark that he was starting to get really upset with this, because he heard this thing catch up and was right behind him, breathing. Literally right behind him, and he can hear the breath of this being coming down his neck. And he had his pistol gripped, but he knew that he didn't have any blessed bullets with him, and the gun wasn't blessed itself. So he had the gun, and it wasn't around the 2-mile mark. He was starting to go like a little bit insane from this whole thing. And he grabbed the pistol, and he shoots it at the ground kind of behind him. And when he pulls out his pistol and shoots behind him, the thing is gone. He stops hearing the breathing. He stops hearing the footsteps. And then he turns around and looks. It's not right there. He looks back. And when he looks forward, it's right in front of him. For a quick second, he looked at the eyes, but then he looked down. And then he closed his eyes and shut his eyes. Because they say if you look into the eyes of Yanagloshi itself, that's where it grabs you. That's where it gets you. You can see inside and be able to, it could paralyze you and start doing all those witchy things it wants you to. So he closed his eyes, and he tried not to gasp. He tried not to have fear. But when you have that thing and you're the only one that's kind of out there, kind of walking back, he had fear, but he tried to suppress it as much as he could. So he walked around it, and he kept going. And sure enough, the pace began to continue on, not too far away. And then it was right behind him again. And so for the next half mile, he was going until not too long after, he heard a truck noise. He heard a truck engine not too far away. And when he opened his eyes, he saw truck headlights coming down that same road he took from his house. And so when he saw those truck headlights getting closer, it was his mom, and she pulls up in front of him, and she said, "Son, get in the truck," in Navajo. And then he's like, "Mom, there's something behind me." And she's like, "I know, get in the truck." And so he makes his way over toward the truck and gets inside, and that thing was right behind him. It was just peering and looking inside the passenger seat. And then the mom's all, "Pop, pop, 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 pop." They started singing some protection songs, and she turned around the car, and they started driving back. And they looked in the rearview mirror, and he was just standing there at the side of the road right there as they kind of drove off. And then a bunch of dust and everything came out from behind the truck, but the silhouette of that man was still there. So they made it back to their home. They put ash and tesh on, and then they called a medicine man the next day to see if they can do a blessing way ceremony for him. And so that right there was a story that I'm just like, dang. Like, imagine walking like 2 miles with a dark entity right behind you. And, and sure enough, he told me too, like, after the story, I was like, "Well, what happened to the sheep?" He's like, "Oh, they made it back. That's why my mom came back to go look for me, was because she noticed that the sheep were at the corral, so she opened it up and let him in, but I wasn't there. So she hopped in her truck, and then she went out to come find me, and sure enough, she picked me up." And so her mom was his mom was getting after him. "Why are you falling asleep? It's why you don't fall asleep," and everything. So they ended up getting a protection ceremony for him after. But I was like, that's some true courage right there, to be able to go through that whole scenario and walking that strength in prayer, strength in your song, strength in who you are, and try not to give into the fear, try not to play its game, And it was very, very interesting. And I was just like, I give props to my relative that went through that, to be able to endure that. And so he shared that story with me. He's just like, "You should put this on your YouTube channel." I was just like, "Go for it. I'll tell it then." So yeah, so let me know if you guys like these viewer kind of stories like this too, because like I said, there's a lot of Yanagloshis, or not a lot, but everybody in the res has a story of a Yanagloshi like this. And if you guys want to hear more stories like this, of accounts of witnessing and being in the presence of Yanagloshis themselves, let me know. Maybe I'll have to try to figure out a way for everyone to input their stories. You guys want to reach out to me on Instagram, send me a DM that you're interested in giving a story, let me know, and then we'll go ahead and go from there. But a couple updates. I have new merch now on the merch website. We got a new line of merch that just dropped. So if you guys want to be able to get some updated merch from Shanclen Shadow Productions, you can place your orders now. I got some tall sizes, so for all my tall relatives out there that don't wear normal shirts, you can purchase some of these shirts here. Got a beanie, got some Apple Watch bands, got a scarf too, kind of similar to this right here, but it has a Shanclen Shadow Productions logo on there too as well. So yeah, I'll link the website on the shop on my description of this video. So yeah, I can't thank you all so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Look on it. This is why I think it needs to be mandatory for everybody on the res to carry a sword. He had a knife, but it was more so for like opening things. It wasn't like no survival knife like Rambo, Crocodile Dundee, or anything like that. It was kind of more like a little pocket knife. So even if he tried, I don't think it would have done much. Yeah, that Yanni probably wanted one of his burritos and probably smelt it, was hungry, should have just gave it one to be able to get the water some sheep. To be able to give the sheep some water.